Right. Hello guys, and welcome back to Car Obsession. Today I'm driving the brand new Audi A3 Saloon, and as you can tell by the title of this video, it is all about how comfortable it is to drive for a longer distance. Now there is a chance you may be looking at this car as an alternative to a BMW or a Mercedes or perhaps an Audi A4, which is a larger car. Now today I'm driving to Coventry, which from here in Worthing is a 300-mile round trip. Therefore I think that will give me quite a good barometer on how good this car is on a longer distance. For a bit of context, the car I'm driving is the S line, which has the sportier, firmer suspension. The ride height has been dropped by 15 millimeters, and I've got the 1.5 litre 150 horsepower petrol engine. All the engines in the range are turbocharged, so you've got a choice of 2 petrols or 2 diesels. At this time there's no electric version, although this version does have a 48 volt mild hybrid system, which of course makes the car more efficient, and you also get a little bit of extra boost when accelerating from lower speed. So for example, the car will have an extra up to an extra 50 Newton meters of torque. Let's fire the car up. That noise you can hear is the offside door mirror. Yeah, it kind of creaks and groans when you open or close it. Right, so now this has got a 10.1 touchscreen, 10.1 inch I should say. Of course it's got smartphone connectivity, so I can use Android Auto, or you've got Apple CarPlay if you have an Apple device. Now for the sake of this test, I am not going to use the navigation through Android Auto. I am going to use the inbuilt navigation, although I do suspect that's kind of a moot point, because from memory the Audi system uses Google Maps anyway, so I think it's kind of one of the same really. Right, so actually tell you what I can do. I can actually show you what I'm doing on this GoPro. Hopefully that angle is right, because I can't see what I'm filming, so there's a good chance that this angle is horrific. So what do I need? CV 3, 1, and D. I really like the kind of haptic feedback the touchscreen gives you. I like that. It doesn't recognise it. Oh, there we go. Took a few moments to pick up the postcode, but it got there. Yes, set as destination. Yes, please. Sunbeam Way, is that correct? Yep, that's fine. So hit start.
The route is being calculated.
Perfect, thank you. So let's pop you guys back into that camera there. Let's connect this to the smartphone connectivity so I can listen to my tunes on the way. And yes, I will catch up with you guys in a little bit. So I'm now out on the open road, therefore let me talk you through the A3 Saloon a little bit more. As I mentioned earlier, under the bonnet I have a 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine, which offers 150 horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound-feet, I will of course drop a subtitle below. Oh, my back! My back! My back! Can someone go back and find my spine, please? Oh my god, that was quite a thud. I'm almost genuinely stunned. Where was I? In regard to performance, this car will hit 62 miles per hour in 8.4 seconds and the top speed is 144 miles per hour. This car, as I mentioned, does have a mild hybrid system, a 48 volt system, therefore it's more efficient, and you also get a bit more acceleration low down. In regard to economy, on a combined run, Audi states that this can offer up to 47.9 mpg, and in regard to CO2 emissions, this car emits 134 grams per kilometre. Now, going back to that shock of that pothole or divot or whatever it was, this is one of the things I really want to test on this drive, the ride. This is the S line, therefore you do get the sportier, firmer suspension as I mentioned earlier, and I am concerned how it will fare on a longer journey. For what it's worth, if you don't want to have the S line suspension, you can, as a no-cost option, opt to remove it and replace it with the softer suspension found in the Sport model. Now, I know that sounds like a bit of a paradox because you think, well, Sport, how can a Sport model have softer suspension? That makes no sense, but the Sport is the base model Audi A3 and therefore doesn't have the firmer suspension. So hopefully that makes some kind of sense, because in my head it doesn't. How can a Sport... Anyway, before I go into a rant, let's focus on the job in hand. The other area that concerns me is road noise. Now, I'm doing 63 miles per hour on quite a broken bit of road. Okay, this bit's a bit smoother now, and you may be able to hear on my clip-on microphone, the road noise from these 18-inch wheels is quite pronounced. I wouldn't call it deafening, but at the same time, the road noise is louder than I was personally expecting. And I think it will be interesting to see how I feel at the end of my first leg of the journey. Other experiences I've had whilst on this journey, the Audi MMI system, I must admit, has been a bit laggy, which is surprising because normally I find Audi systems to be seamless and pretty easy to operate. But on this occasion, just making sure nothing's coming up this slip road, on this occasion I have found it to be a little bit laggy, a bit delayed. Some of the voice commands have come almost a little bit too late, and sometimes it cuts off the music too early before the navigation starts speaking. And that's, in my opinion, uncharacteristic of my experience I normally get from Audi's MMI system. So, interesting. At this point, I would like to be singing along, badly, to some of my favourite songs, but I can't because the Android Auto, it stops working, it keeps just crashing. It's reconnected, and apparently it's playing music, but it isn't. The system is signifying that music is playing. It's not on mute. I'm Steve Forbes. That's the radio, as you can probably hear. That's Heart Sussex. Yeah. Now, on a long drive like this, I really want to listen to my own music. I don't really like listening to the radio because it's just the same music repeated on a loop, and it drives me mad. And you've got adverts and yeah. I don't really like listening to the radio. I'd much rather listen to my own music, and I can't because the Android Auto isn't working. Ah! That's extremely irritating. Okay, I've got my music back via Bluetooth. Thank the Lord for Bluetooth. Yes. And everything in Planet Aaron is okay again. Panic averted. Hello, can I have a medium latte, please?
Caramel latte.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Ah, salvation in the form of some slightly overpriced coffee. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, so 50 miles left, which means I've covered around 100 miles. So a good time for an update. How has the journey been? Well, the infotainment is still playing up, so my Android Auto keeps crashing, which is annoying. But of course, I've got the backup of Bluetooth, so that is good. In regard to comfort, I'm not quite as achy as I was expecting because of the firm suspension. But I wouldn't say this is the most comfortable cruiser. Therefore, if you do want your A3 to have a bit more comfort, I would urge you to look at a model that hasn't got the S-Line suspension. Thankfully, as an optional extra, my driver's seat does have a 4-way adjustable lumbar support, and that has been a bit of a blessing. So I don't know how much that option costs off the top of my head, but I will of course drop it down as a subtitle. Probably not that expensive, and I would argue it is probably worth your money, because I think without the lumbar support, I think my back would be in a little bit of a bad way right now. Having said that, the seats are comfortable, they are supportive, I've got no real issue there. The only gripe I have with them is I would like a bit more bolstering support for my hips. I have found my hips have got a little bit achy because the bolstering kind of tapers down where it meets the backrest. Therefore, yes, my hips don't really have much support. That may be quite a picky thing to point out, but I do need to be honest. The whole point of this video is to share my experience, and yes, my hips are a little bit uncomfortable right now. Thankfully, I was able to get a bit of respite by using the cruise control, therefore I could change the position of my legs, which did help. But yes, other aspects of the car, let's move away from the comfort side of things and talk about the performance. The 1.5 litre petrol engine has got a good amount of poke, it's got a good amount of performance, overtaking is easy, and I think this will have enough oomph to keep you satisfied on a day-to-day basis. Now, of course, if you need a bit more power, you have the option of the S3 or the RS3, but I think as long as you're not really hungry for loads of power, the 1.5 litre engine, the 35 TFSI, should cater for your needs just fine. What else? Oh, the armrest, yes. As standard, I've got a centre armrest, which is nice. It is adjustable, and I'm a big fan of that. Again, it helps with the comfort. Visibility out of the car has been absolutely fine. I've had no issues. I've got the lane keep assist, which is helpful if you have that momentary lapse in concentration. Oh, actually, fuel economy. Yes, that is probably a good one to cover. Now, of course, if you want more fuel economy, then take a look at the 2 litre diesel, which can either be had with either 116 horsepower, 116, or 150 horsepower to match this car. But what about the petrol engine? So, if I toggle across to the correct view on the lovely Audi Virtual Cockpit. So right now, my average speed is 53 miles per hour, and I've been achieving 52.3 mpg, so not too shabby. For what it's worth, because this has got the 48 volt mild hybrid system, so I just need to change lane, make sure I'm good. Because this has got the mild hybrid system, when you're coasting or when you're going down hill, if you lift off the accelerator, it will actually shut the car off. Is it going to do it? There we go. So you may be able to see I've got the little green A, which means that the engine has been shut off. So the car is just coasting right now, and that of course saves on fuel. Now, obviously, when I hit the accelerator again, the engine is woken back up. I've not mentioned it as of yet, but helping to provide the power to the front wheels is a 7-speed S Tronic gearbox, an automatic of course, with flappy paddles. The S Tronic works pretty well. It's seamless, it's smooth, it's pretty responsive as well. It seems a bit more responsive compared to some other S Tronic gearboxes I've used in other Audis. Some of the other ones I've driven, they seem just a little bit slow to wake up. But this does feel a little bit more responsive. Don't get me wrong, if you have the car in auto mode like I have now, sometimes if you've been cruising and you stamp with the accelerator, it will take a few moments to respond to your throttle input. But conversely, if I were to put it into dynamic, hang back a little bit, cruise for a little bit, and foot down, there we go, that is more responsive. Of course it would be, it's dynamic. So you've got 5 driving modes in the A3 Saloon. You've got efficiency, comfort, auto, dynamic or individual. This car doesn't have adaptive dampers. The dampers are passive. Therefore, no matter what mode you have it in, the ride comfort and the ride compliancy will be the same. So it doesn't matter if you put it into comfort, it won't make the ride more comfortable. It'll just soften the rest of the controls. Therefore, it will make the steering lighter. So I have arrived at Citron HQ, ready to drive the new C4 and the new EC4. That will of course come in a separate video. This video is all about the Audi A3. So to sum up the first part of my journey, how was it? Well, of course there were a few niggles. Obviously the infotainment system played up a little bit. For what it's worth, there were some times where some of the sat-nav commands came a little bit too late. And there's one point where I was on the I think it was the M25 or the M40, and it told me to turn left. There was no left, so I don't know what's quite happening there. It's like, well, I'd love to turn left, but I'm pretty sure that would result in a crash. So probably not the most advisable thing to do. So yeah, unusually the Audi MMI system has been a little bit temperamental. The ride, yes, it is firm. However, I would argue you can drive this car on a longer distance, whether you'd really want to or not on a regular basis. So if you do a lot of motorway miles for your work, then I think there are better options out there. Or you could spec this car without the S-line suspension, which, in all honesty, I would urge you to do unless you really want to have that extra crispness when it comes to the handling. Because of course the ride height is lower and it's firmer. Anyway. I'm going to sign off from this part of the video. I will catch up with you later on today. Oh, blimey. Oh, what a day. Oh, I'm back in the Audi, of course. A good day's filming with the Citron C4s, well, C4 and EC4. That content will be coming to your screen soon if it hasn't already. But now, of course, it's time to make my way back home. Thank you very much.
And those two.
Ooh, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I've covered a little over 200 miles now, therefore I'm 2/3 into this journey, and I thought I'd give you an update. As you can see, the light is starting to fade, but I've got my LCD light here, so you can see me. Weirdly, this will sound odd, I somehow feel more comfortable on my journey back than I do on my journey there. The ride somehow doesn't seem to be bothering me as much. I know that seems like a really weird thing to say, but I can only give you my experience. The ride is somehow feels more compliant. maybe the road surface has been better on the way back. I must admit, the roads going home appear to be less broken compared to the roads coming to, going to Coventry. So perhaps that is the reason. My lower back, well, my back in general is doing okay. Lower back is perhaps a little bit tight, but I wouldn't say it is crampy or really uncomfortable to the point where I'm desperate to get out of the car, because that would be inaccurate. The infotainment system is still playing up. It's not willing to cooperate with me. That is annoying. And again, the navigation commands, at times they have been laggy. There's been times where it's told me to do something when I've already done it, and if I had waited for that command, I would have missed it, if that makes sense. That seems unusual. As I said earlier, normally I have a positive experience with Audi's MMI systems, but this one, for whatever reason, is a bit laggy, which is, yeah, very unusual. Let's have a check on the fuel economy on the MPG. So I'm currently doing 45.9 miles to the gallon, which is a bit less than earlier. I think earlier I was doing about low 50s, wasn't I? That does seem quite odd, because I haven't driven, well, to my knowledge, I haven't driven any differently compared to earlier. Obviously subconsciously I may have done, but yeah, quite odd. So, home sweet home. I've covered over 300 miles in the Audi A3 Saloon today, so time for me to conclude. Can you drive this for a longer distance? Well, of course you can. The question is, would you want to? Yes, I think you would. Now, I did have quite a few reservations about this trip in this car, because the ride is quite firm, as I've said, and the tyre noise is quite audible. I'll be honest, I thought this drive was going to be more tiring than it actually was. Yes, the drive up there was a little bit tiring, but the drive back, weirdly, was a bit more comfortable, a bit more pleasurable, a bit more pleasant. If you are looking to buy the Audi A3 Saloon as more of a long-distance cruiser, I would encourage you to do a few things. Try to keep the size of the alloys as small as possible, because the bigger the alloy, the louder the tyre noise is likely to be, and that will be unpleasant. If you can live without the extra handling capabilities, I would urge you to delete the S-line suspension and just get the standard suspension, because it will be softer, therefore more compliant. What else? Oh yes, if your budget allows, then I would definitely urge you to get the four-way lumbar support, because I think that has been a godsend on this journey. So overall, the Audi A3 Saloon has done better than I was expecting. Actually, before I sign off, let's talk about the MPG on the way home. So I got 50.7 MPG on my return journey, which I think was similar to what I got on the outbound journey. I can't remember what the MPG was, but I'll drop that in as a subtitle and also give you an average for both trips. I do hope you have enjoyed this video or found it useful. If so, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.